Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. And today's episode, I want to touch on several different divisions that have been affected in the last few weeks. Several of these fights that I'm going to talk about, for those of you that are hardcore fans, this is going to be nothing new for you. For those of you that are casuals or have been tuning in to watch the main event, as they get announced, you may have missed what took place, some of these important fights that took place on the undercards, or may not have realized that they were taking place. So I'll be bouncing around a little bit between multiple different divisions, but I'll try to keep it as clean cut for you so you could actually see why these fights were important and how they're shaping the landscape within their own respective divisions. So we'll jump back to November 13th. November 13th, we ended up seeing just hours over in the UK, just hours before the Jaime Munguia-Gabe Rosado fight took place, which was stateside. That was over in Anaheim, California. Out in the UK in Sheffield, Yorkshire, Kid Galahad was the main event, and he was trying to accomplish his first title defense against Spaniard fighter KIKO Martinez. He's a veteran fighter. He's stepped into the ring with 10 losses. He's been around for a multitude of years. Definitely the most decorated fighter that Spain has had to date. And but a lot of people were questioning as to why he was getting the title shot in the first place. Why was KIKO Martinez deserving of this title shot? This fight is for the featherweight, or it's in the featherweight division, and it was for the IBF featherweight title. Now, Kid Galahad just became the rightful owner to the IBF title back in August. He ended up having a fight against Jassa James Dickens back in August, and that was a fight in which they had seen each other years back. I believe it was 2013, the first time they saw each other, and that was a rematch that was long called for, and it finally came to fruition this past August. They got to step into the ring with each other once again, and the fight ended up getting stopped in the 11th round. James Dickens was deemed victorious. He took control of that fight over Dickens. Took control of the fight. It was a bloody fight. It was a rough and tumble type fight when Dickens was able to make it so. But he got bloodied up. He got outpointed. Kid Galahad was definitely the winner there. The fight was stopped in the 11th round, and Kid Galahad walked away, not just the winner, but the new owner to the IBF featherweight title. So we forward to this November 13th, and he was gonna put his title on the line against KIKO Martinez and defend his title. So he steps in. He was definitely looking like he was in control of the fight up to the 5th round. He was making it look quite easy, as a matter of fact. KIKO Martinez ended up suffering a cut over his right eye in the 3rd round, and he was just getting outclassed, getting outpointed. KIKO could not find his spacing other than a random overhand punch or punch to the body that he was able to get in. When able to, Kid Galahad maintained a space and good generalship overall over KIKO Martinez. By the time the 5th round hit, he got caught with an overhand punch by KIKO Martinez. It was an overhand right that ended up dropping Galahad. And it was towards the end of the 5th round, and he could not recover. Kid Galahad was barely able to get up. He answered the count on wobbly legs, really shaky, and he was still suffering from the knockout by the time the 6th, or the knockdown, by the time the 6th round kicked off. The corner wasn't able to revive him. You could tell that he wasn't fully there, and he got hit really hard by that punch. He answered the bell to the 6th round, still on wobbly legs, really shaky. KIKO Martinez closed the gap and put him away, and walked away as the new IBF champion. So he's the new IBF champion there in that division, a title in which was vacant for quite a while until Kid Galahad was able to get his hands on that back in August, unable to defend the title successfully. Now that title has changed hands and owners again. Now KIKO Martinez enters a championship picture for that 126 division. Who do we have there in the 126 division? Who are the other champions? Leo Santa Cruz is the champion for the WBA, the super champion, where Lee Wood happens to be the regular WBA champion. Gary Russell Jr. holds the WBC title in that division, and Emmanuel Navarrete is the rightful owner to the WBO title in that division. El Vaquero Navarrete has been the most active out of all the other champions. And he's just compiling an awesome resume for the last couple years since he became champion. How does this tie in? Well, we'll jump in to this past weekend where Terrence Crawford and Sean Porter faced off against one another. On the undercard, Isaac Dogbe was facing Christopher Diaz. Christopher Diaz was Navarrete's last opponent earlier this year, and had a firefight with Navarrete. It was a back and forth fight, which Navarrete ended up pulling out the victory there in great fashion. Navarrete defended his title once again, and that's how we tie in this division. Now, Isaac Dogbe, who beat Christopher Diaz, got the nod win over Diaz this past weekend. He used to be the owner of that WBO title and lost it to Navarrete. Navarrete beat him, and I believe that was back in 2018. I believe it was December of 2018, and then 5 months later, they ended up getting into the ring. Again, Dogbe trying to get his title back. Navarrete defended it in a fight which Dogbe's father, and not just trainer, but his father, ended up throwing in the towel with about a minute and a half left in that 12th round, where Navarrete was just accumulating the damage on Dogbe and just putting it on strong to the entire fight, and definitely in the closing moments of the fight. The father stepped in, they threw the towel, Dogbe was unable to get his title back. Since that loss, with this victory that he just had this past weekend over Christopher Diaz, Dogbe is on a 3-fight win streak. Now, from that fight, that rematch fight that he had with Navarrete put he's on a 6-fight win streak leading up to his fight earlier this year with Christopher Diaz. Christopher Diaz has lost both of those fights, but Navarrete, that was his 6th. He had 6 fights in between that one, and now he just had another one against Joet Gonzalez, who was known for his rivalry fight that he had with Shakur Stevenson a while back. So Joet Gonzalez ended up coming on the short end of the stick with the decision. Navarrete beat Joet Gonzalez and defended his title once again. So Navarrete is the most active of the 4 champions, and quickly setting his foot as the one that's running that division at the moment. Gary Russell Jr. would definitely be the biggest draw of those guys, but he's been inactive since early 2020. And Leo Santa Cruz would be the most recognizable of all the champions, and definitely the biggest payday for anybody out of all the champions, should there be a unification bout, which we hope we get. Navarrete against Leo Santa Cruz would be awesome. Navarrete against Gary Russell, Leo and Gary Russell, any combination of those would be great. Dogbe on a 3-fight win streak, and that's where that fight was important, because he's trying to get himself back into title contention on a 3-fight win streak against a very game Christopher Diaz, who gave Dogbe trouble and gave Navarrete trouble. So he starts falling in the rankings, but Dogbe continues to climb up and try to get himself back in the title contention. KIKO Martinez just became a champion, and although he may be the lesser known of the group, he's the most experienced and the veteran, definitely the older fighter of the champions available. Lee Wood unifying the WBA title with Leo Santa Cruz, his regular against the super title, would be an awesome fight as well. So maybe Lee Wood, KIKO Martinez could go at one another, and then Leo Santa Cruz could go with Gary Russell or Navarrete. Who knows? But that's the importance behind those 2 fights. So, and that division itself at 126. We'll go back to that same November 13th card out in Sheffield. On the undercard of Kid Galahad and KIKO Martinez, there was Alicia Baumgardner, who ended up lifting the title from Terri Harper. Terri Harper was the long-reigning WBC champion at 130 pounds. Alicia Baumgardner, who has had back and forth narratives and dialogues with Mikaela Mayer and with Terri Harper. She basically said she was going to beat Terri Harper, and she's coming after Mikaela Mayer, and she did just that. Her power proved to be too much for Terri Harper, and she ended up getting knocked out while on her feet. This happened in the 4th round. Baumgardner just started hitting her from the 1st round. Terri Harper felt the power. These two fighters have a rematch clause. That contract had a rematch clause, but after Terri Harper felt that power that Baumgardner brought with her, I don't think Terri Harper is going to try to get her title back. Who knows? But I don't see Terri Harper trying to get back in there. The stoppage was nasty. This is not a close fight. Not from the onset. Baumgardner was just too strong, and too quick for Terri Harper, and she is now the rightful owner of the WBC title in 130 pounds. Mikaela Mayer, 1 week earlier and the night before Canelo and Caleb Plant happened, on that Friday, she fought on ESPN against Maeva Hamadouche. I put an episode out about that event, and she ended up unifying her WBO and lifted the IBF title from Maeva Hamadouche. So now she is the unified and the only unified champion at the moment at 130 pounds. In the women's division, Mikaela Mayer holds 2 titles. Baumgardner walked away with 2 titles. The second title that you saw Baumgardner walking away with was the IBO, which is a minor title and not one of the 4 major sanctioning body titles. So she has the WBC, which does matter. And then from there, Hyun-Mi Choi is the other champion, Korean fighter Hyun-Mi Choi. She holds the WBA strap, and she would be the other fight, whether Baumgardner fights Hyun-Mi Choi or Mikaela Mayer goes for that 3rd title and setting up that perfect showdown with Alicia Baumgardner. But 3 of those titles are in the U.S. Hyun-Mi Choi is the outstanding champion, and I can't wait to see how that division plays out. A lot of action there, and women's boxing has definitely come a long way. I have plenty of episodes out as related to women's boxing from the catalog that you could find. Women's boxing has come a long way, and a lot of it is thanks to MMA and the advances in MMA and the advancement in training that exists and that is available now worldwide. Throughout any gym that you want to go to, women are no longer frowned upon for wanting to train and train a specific sport or discipline, I should say. They're no longer frowned upon like when Ronda Rousey was starting, or Gina Carano's, or your cyborgs when they were starting to kick off their careers, let alone Christy Martins and Mia St. John's of the past, the Iran Wolves of the past, when they would get frowned upon or seen different because they were fighting. Now the women's boxing has come a long way. You could see it with Clarissa Shields, Jessica McCaskill, Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano. These are pioneers and champions, current undisputed champions. Several of those that I've mentioned, 3 of the 4. Amanda Serrano is the only one that's not, but definitely the most decorated out of all the women fighters around at the moment. Senias Estrada starting to make a splash. Marlon Sparza, both at the Olympics, and now she holds a title. I mean, you name it. There's a lot of talent throughout women boxing. This division in the 130 pound is panning out to be one of the best, with Mikaela Mayer, definitely one of the more vocal champions out there, pushing forward the women movement, the pay movement, the equal pay movement, and now she's a unified champ and trying to unify the entire division. So that's something to keep an eye out for. So that was the main one that I saw there. Kid Galahad fell short in his first defense attempt. KIKO Martinez, a new champ for the men at 126. And in the 130 for the women, Alicia Baumgardner with the shocker, knocking out Terri Harper while standing. And thanks to the referee that he stepped in and protected Terri Harper, because Baumgardner was about to, she was continuing her assault. She was starting to push forward. So that was that. The other card that was stacked was during the Demetrius Andrade fight. The Demetrius Andrade fight had several big fights that took place. Let me go ahead and bring this up so we could bounce around these divisions. So the first one that comes to mind is going to be one of the lighter divisions, and that's Julio Cesar Martinez, REY Martinez. So REY Martinez, the powerhouse, he trains with Canelo, with Eddie Reynoso. He's part of the Canelo team. He's a powerhouse puncher, small weight. That fight was for 100 and what did they weigh in? Because he's looking to get into a fight with Sonny Edwards. And so he ended up fighting the mandatory. He's the WBC champ. He weighed in 111 and a half. That fight is in the flyweight division. So Sonny Edwards is currently the IBF champ. He's looking to unify titles. He's possibly the hardest opposition for REY Martinez. REY Martinez and McWilliams Arroyo were unifying the WBC title. McWilliams Arroyo had the interim version of the WBC flyweight title, while REY Martinez had the main version of the title. This was a unification bout that took place on the undercard of Demetrius Andrade and Quigley. And REY Martinez got dropped in the first round, then came back and returned the favor to McWilliams Arroyo. And from there, he did not take his foot off the gas. He continued to go at him. He continued to put the pressure on, and they had an accidental head clash, one that it looked like McWilliams Arroyo could have continued the fight because it didn't look too grave of a situation for McWilliams Arroyo to where he was openly cut or bleeding or couldn't see, but he claimed that he couldn't see. The doctors checked him out. The coroner checked him out. It looks like there was a little hesitation there on his part to want to get back in there. This occurred, of course, in the third round. The fight was stopped at the conclusion of the second round. They don't answer the bell, and Martinez and Arroyo ends in a no contest. Arroyo went down in the first and the second. Martinez went down in the first, but that accidental headbutt ended up causing the no contest, the fight to be stopped. They got stopped early, and having a no decision for such an important fight sucks, because we could have had one champion there representing the WBC. Of the two, I don't think McWilliams Arroyo is going to want to get back in the ring with REY Martinez. I think he noticed that it was too much for him. The power that REY Martinez possesses, it was very early in the fight, and these guys fought 2 rounds as if they had fought 10 rounds, the way that they were marking each other up. REY Martinez is going to be the one to reckon with in that division. I think he's the stronger champion, and the strongest opposition would definitely be English fighter Sonny Edwards. So that was an important fight there that took place on the undercard of Andrade. So hopefully we'll see REY Martinez and Sonny Edwards go against one another coming 2022. Another important fight that took place during that event was Murodjon Akhmadaliev. So he fights at 122 pounds. He's the unified champion right now for the super bantamweights. He holds both the WBA and the IBF titles. And the other 2 champions are going to be fighting on the undercard of the upcoming event between Teofimo Lopez and George Kambosos. Sorry, not on the undercard. They're fighting the same night as Teofimo Lopez and George Kambosos. The other one that I'm getting confused with is Azinga Fusile. Brandon Figueroa, Stephen Fulton are going to be fighting on Showtime Saturday, November 27th. And they're the owners of the other 2 titles, the WBC and the WBO. They're going to be unifying titles. We're going to have one champ with 2 titles walking out that night. And then Murodjon is the other unified champ right now, holding the IBF and the WBA, and we'll get an ultimate showdown there for that 122 to get one rightful owner. Hopefully, if there's no issues with promotional issues or promotional companies stepping in the way, networks, what have you, the politics of it, right? Murodjon was successful against Velasquez on the undercard of Demetrius Andrade and Quigley. Velasquez was not supposed to be as tough a test as he turned out to be, and he took Murodjon the entire way. It was evident that Murodjon did enough to win that fight, but Jose Velasquez challenged him throughout the entire night, hit him with some really, really good flush punches to where he had Murodjon in trouble a couple of the times. Very, very good fight, back and forth action on that fight. And now we sit and wait. Murodjon gets his hand raised, still holds the 2 titles, and we sit and wait to see what happens between Figueroa and Stephen Fulton. Another fight that happened on that undercard was Kali Reis or Kali Reis. Not exactly sure how to pronounce it. Reis. She ended up beating Jessica Camara. That fight was for a 140-pound unification belt, or it was a unification fight. There was one title on the line that was brought with Kali Reis, the WBA title that she stepped in with, and then the 2 women were fighting for the vacant WBO title at 140. The winner is chasing after Chantel Cameron, who was just successful a couple weeks back as well. So that 140-pound division is another similar division that's starting to pan out. Not as popular, with not as big names as the 130-pound division, as the ones that we were just talking about with Michaela Mayer, Alicia Baumgardner. The drama, the storylines are there. But Chantel Cameron is one of the more popular champions at the 140-pound division, and Kali Reis is coming after her now with 2 titles around her waist. Definitely one of the more decorated at that division. So keep an eye out for the 140-pound division. And that was basically it. Now, the reason that I was getting the Brandon Figueroa, Stephen Fulton card somewhat confused was because on the, I got it confused, right? Thinking that it was going to be the undercard, because in that just a few pounds higher than their division, Azinga Fusile is going to be fighting Ogawa for the vacant IBF title at 130 pounds. So Brandon Figueroa, Stephen Fulton, Murodjon, all 122. The 130-pound division is the same division as Oscar Valdez, where he dethroned El Alacrán Burchelt earlier this year, and then defended his title by way of decision over Conceição this summer. I think it was early September, where he ended up getting the nod over Conceição in a controversial decision. But Oscar Valdez defended the title, keeps the title around his waist, and he's the WBC champ now. Alacrán Burchelt we have not seen from. He hasn't stepped into the ring, but he used to be the strongest champion available for a long time until he got dethroned by Oscar Valdez earlier this year. And then the newest champion there was Shakur Stevenson, who beat Jamel Herring. That's an episode that I didn't put together, but it was a fight that I definitely watched. I was a big fan of Jamel Herring. I was pulling for Jamel Herring, and he was just bested. He would beat to the punch. Just the higher pedigree boxing skill was displayed by Shakur Stevenson. He's a menace. He's a threat to anybody who steps into that ring with him, because he's not running. He's not trying to outpoint you. He's going to beat you. He's bringing the fight to you. He's harassing you in there, and he's making it look good. He puts his combinations well. He puts his punches and delivers them well. And he ended up outpointing and outclassing downright Jamel Herring to lift that WBO title from him and make himself into the newest champion there at 130. So Shakur Stevenson holds that title at 130. Oscar Valdez, he holds the WBO. Oscar Valdez holds the WBC. Azinga Fusile and Ogawa are going to be fighting for the IBF vacant title. And the WBA was recently vacated by Gervonta Davis. Gervonta Davis no longer wishing to campaign at 130. He vacated that title, and the other, he had the super championship of the WBA. So the regular version of the WBA title is held by none other than Roger Gutierrez, whom we saw complete a trilogy against Alvarado not that long ago. So Roger Gutierrez from Venezuela, he ended up beating Rene Alvarado, who used to be the champion there. He completed that back-to-back fights with Rene Alvarado and beat him twice, defended the title. So he's got the WBA version of that title. Now that Gervonta Davis vacated the super version to the WBA, Alvarado's the man, not Alvarado, Roger Gutierrez is going to be the rightful owner there. So whether Shakur unifies with Roger Gutierrez or we see Oscar Valdez and Roger Gutierrez get in the ring with one another, those would be amazing fights. And we're just going to wait and see what happens between Azinga Fusile and Ogawa. I think Fusile will have a little too much for Ogawa, but that's going to be on the undercard of Teofimo and George Kambosos this coming Saturday, November 27th. So keep an eye out for that. I think that's pretty much it. I think we're pretty much caught up as far as the fights that we may have missed or fights that may have been overlooked. A lot of implications there, a lot of titles that change hands, titles that were unified, and I'm glad that we weren't that I didn't miss those, because these undercards have a lot of moving pieces to them, and they're shaping the landscape within their respective divisions. So we'll look forward to Teofimo Lopez and George Kambosos. I'll go ahead and put an episode out on that, either pre or post. And then the Brandon Figueroa, Stephen Fulton, which will also take place on that same night on a different network. That's going to be a fight that you don't want to miss, because they're unifying titles for that 122, and the winner will have one more man to put all four titles on the line against, and that would be against Murodjon, who's sitting and waiting. He did his job last week, and now he's waiting to see who he's got to face to unify that entire division. Hopefully I did right by you. Hopefully I didn't confuse you too much. A lot of moving pieces, but we touched on quite a bit, and hopefully I got you caught up with everything that's been going on with the sport of boxing to date. And we got some more major episodes that we need to put out out of respect to the heavyweight division, and some major news as well that have taken place recently, both with Canelo and what have you, with the commission, with these organizations, with the WBA, WBC stuff that continues to go on. So I'll keep you guys posted with that stuff. I'll continue to put out these episodes. Keep an eye out for a big weekend that's awaiting us, and from here on, we're going to have several big weekends to close out 2021. A lot of big fights to look forward to. Devin Haney, Jojo Diaz, those guys at 135. That's why the IBF is vacant in the 130, because of Jojo Diaz failing to make weight. That's the old fight that he had against Tevin Farmer. So he ended up moving up to 135, and now we're going to have another champion come Saturday in that division, and a second unified champion in the 122. And at 126, everybody's accounted for, all titles accounted for. And for the women, titles change hands, all titles accounted for at 130. Michaela Mayer, Alicia Baumgardner, can't wait to see that if it happens. And let's hope it does in the next couple months, hopefully in the first half of 2022. So with that, I leave you guys. Take care of yourselves, and I'll talk to you soon. Check out the upcoming episodes, and thank you guys again for all the support that you've lended this small platform, small podcast, but big lover of MMA and boxing. So take care of yourselves. We'll talk soon.